The Sikha we will be learning today is in the Sichas Chelik Chof Dalet, the second Sikha to Parshas Ekev. Even Posik Yashem Lekechem Hu Lekeo Lekim Gamer Asher Leyisa Fonam Likach Sheichat. The Posik says that Hashem, your God, is the God of gods, and He Leyisa Fonim, He will not show any favor. The Leyikach Sheichat will not take bribery. Actually, there's a Posik that comes behemshach to Psukim before. Before that, it says. What does Hashem want from you? Only to be afraid of Hashem, have Yiras Shamayim. And Rasha explains that it means even though you did all that, all kinds of things that are not so good, nevertheless, Rasha says it means Hashem still loves you. And from all your sins that you did, Rasha says, all he asks is of you to fear Hashem. And then the Pasukim continues that you have to keep the mitzvahs, etc. Then the Pasuk says, the one that we just started with, Hashem, your God is the God of gods, and He's the master of all masters. He's the Eibush, the God that's great, big, great, strong, and awesome. And then the words are, the literal translation is He doesn't show His face, meaning it means He doesn't show favoritism and He does not take bribery. Zokt Rasha, so on this pasuk Rasha says, and the Rebbe quotes the words that Rasha quotes from the pasuk and Rasha's commentary, and then another few words, another Dibra Maskal, another piece of Rasha, he quotes the pasuk and he says commentary. And this is what he does. Rasha Zokt Rasha leyisafonim. He quotes the words in Posik that the Eibush is leyisafonim. He doesn't show favoritism. Im tifrakoy Rasha adds. If you will throw off his yoke, if you throw off the yoke of Hashem, He will not show favor to you. He will not show favoritism. Then Rasha quotes the words v'leyikach sheichad. He doesn't. He will not take bribes. Lefaisei b'moment, to appease him with money. This is what Rasha says. So the Rebbe is going to go into both of these Rashas and ask all kinds of questions, and they come out the pshat the way the Rasha goes behemshach. Both Rashas go together, but he's going to explain the pshat. But first the Rebbe says, we have to understand here. What is Rasha trying to tell us? As something that we otherwise wouldn't know, so something new. Rasha is telling us that when will Hashem not show favor? If you throw off His yoke. Well, obviously, when else should Hashem not show His favor to you? If you are doing Teir mitzvahs, would we even think that the Eibush says that the Pasuk says the Eibush will not show favoritism to you if you keep mitzvahs? Certainly He will. So when He says He will not show, obviously when you throw off His yoke, when you don't keep mitzvahs. So what's Rasha teaching us? How else would we learn pshat in the Pasuk? So the Meforshim explain, as Rasha kum bavoren and dos steht leyisaponim und früher in Birchas Kein steht Yisa Shefanim Alecha. Rasha is basically trying to answer a kasha that someone might have when he learns this pasuk. This pasuk says that the Eibush is leyisaponim. The Eibush does not show favor to people, but it's a contradiction. We learned earlier Pasha Balaischa. So Aminosei. There, the Pasuk says, Yisa Hashem Ponev, part of the Birchas Kehanim, of the blessings of the Kehanim, it says, Yisa Hashem Ponev, Hashem will turn His face to you, will show favoritism. And here it says that Hashem does not show. Le Yisa Ponev. Is it Hashem Afaras? That's what Hashem explains. Here is difference, no kasha. Because here we're talking about here we're talking if you throw off His yoke. And obviously over there we're talking what He doesn't throw. So if you don't throw off His yoke, you have the yoke of Hashem, then He will show you favoritism. And if you do throw over the yoke, He will not show. That's why Rasha says it. But the Rebbe says it, so by ultimate movement, it's still not understood. What is he still telling us? This itself is understood. It's self-understood that when will Hashem not show His favoritism to you? If you throw off His yoke. Whether we're trying to answer this theory or not, but this thing that Rasha is trying to tell us, see, all the status that the Meforshim give answers why Rasha says it, to answer the kasha. But the answer to that kasha is self-understood. That when will Hashem le yisaponim if you don't do what He wants? Basically, if you throw off His yoke. Befrat noch der Arichas von sehr früh in Parsha B'Chokesa, especially when Rashi goes, the Posik goes at length in Parsha B'Chokesa. So anything that we learned before, the Rebbe always learns that the Rashi assumes that people will remember. Anybody who learns any Posik remembers everything you learned before. In Parsha B'Chokesa, we learned that if you do mitzvah B'Chokesa, if you do Yischukim, Hashem will give you the rain, He'll give you everything. He will show you His favoritism. He will show favor to you. So we already know from there that if you do mitzvahs, you show favor. So when it says leis upon him, obviously when you don't do mitzvahs, so it's self-obvious. So the teretz of the Mefarsh are not the real teretz. It's still a question that why does Rashi have to answer this kasha when it's self-understood? Then the Rebbe says, wait, another thing, another problem we have here. We're saying that Rashi is trying to answer how come by Birchas Keinim it says Yisa Hashem Panavilecha, and here it says Le Yisa. There it says He will show His favor, and here it says not. Is it true that over there we're showing, and the answer is that over there we're talking when you do everything right, so He'll show Le Yisa upon him. Here we're talking when you don't do things right, He'll Le Yisa upon him. It's not so posha that Rebbe says. Yisa Hashem Panavilecha, when the posik by Birchas Keinim says Hashem will show His face, will show favoritism to you. Taich Rasha says, Yirbesh Kaise. It means that Hashem will hold back His anger. In other words, we're talking about somebody that Hashem is angry at him. And never let the Pasuk says that He will hold back His anger. Kumi says it comes out as Dor Teretzich and Afalas is Do Kaise. Over there we're talking where Hashem is angry. Obviously there is a reason why you should be angry, which is why because you're behaving against the will of Hashem. And still the Hashem will show His favor to you. So we're back to the kasha. The whole answer to the kasha is that over there is talking where you're good, and here you're talking not so good. There Yisa Hashem, and here if you're not good, Le Yisa. But where Rashi himself says over there that you're not good there either. So therefore, the stira is back. In both places, it's talking where you're not doing the right thing. And nevertheless, over there it says, Yisa Hashem, He will show you favor. And here it says He won't. That's concerning the first piece of Rashi. Now the Rebbe says, eight from verstehen in the zweiten Pirish for Rashi. We also have to understand the second piece of Rashi. And Rashi quotes the Pasuk, Lo yikach sheikha. Hashem will not take any bribe. L'faisi b'momes, Rashi explains, it means you can't appease Him with money. Now, l'chura here, Rashi is telling us two things that the Pasuk didn't say. He's trying to explain. When they say He doesn't take sheikhat, Rashi says, what does it mean? You can't appease Him. That's number one. A second thing He says, with what can't you appease Him? With money. So the Rebbe is going to explain like this. Could ask a kasha, why does Rashi have to add the word lefaise? Rashi could have said, won't take sheikha, but moment, he won't take any money. Why does Rashi have to add lefaise? What does it add? Well, obviously, why do you give someone sheikha? Why would someone give a judge sheikha? Because you want to do something. You want him to paskin like you. You want him to take your side. So why does Rashi add? He says that's not a problem. He says it's very clear why Rashi has to add it. Hagamas in posik retzaving sheikhat, and the posik is talking about sheikhat. So that's another problem here. So sheikhat, why is sheikhat lefaise? And as we'll see in a second, what the Rebbe says here, there's two things. There's the concept of trying to have the judge paskin against the din in your favor, and then there's another thing. You want to appease him. You want to appease him means that even though you're guilty, but you want to appease him to make him say, overlook your problem you did. The Pasuk says, sheikhat, Rashi taiches lefaise. So he says, not a problem what the Rashi is telling us. Is with the Rom is mavayir, moving past like Rabbi Mizrahi explains, and that's very simple to understand. As sheikhat b'chol mokim, he says like this, sheikhat, when it says bribes, wherever we're talking about, dayan basar v'dam, we're talking sheikhat by a regular human judge, can mean, and it could mean one of the two, or lezakes asachayev, or to make someone who's guilty, to make him innocent against the din, ivus hadin, paskening the din crookedly. That's one way that sheikhat could work. Or the lavate leinsha, or somebody who deserves to be punished, and you give sheikhat in order that he should overlook the punishment. He says, you know what, you're taka guilty, and you deserve to be punished, but I'll pasken that you don't have to get punished. So he's not making the din crooked. He's saying the din, but he's overlooking it. So that's by a regular judge. Hashem is baruch la'yipol be'l'zakis asachayev. By David, you can't say that he should be mezakeh. He should make a person who's chayev, who's guilty, make him innocent. Rak levater einish. By him, what kind of sheikhad might person think you could give the Eibush that he should overlook the punishment? He should not punish you, even though you deserve to be punished. Rasha expresses at the posuk retveg as sheikhad was technes lafayes. But the posuk when it says he doesn't take sheikhad doesn't mean he doesn't take money to paskin against the din. Obviously, the Eibush won't do that. It means he doesn't take money to be mafayes. Das heißt vitoreinish, to overlook the punishment we have to get. We're not talking about that you might think you could give bribery to the Eibishter to make someone who's chayiv guilty, to make him zakeh, to make him innocent. From those darfan the jails on that you don't have to say for sure the Eibishter won't do that. But we're trying to say maybe you could give the Eibishter sheikhat somehow, and he will overlook the punishment that you deserve. And that's what the Pasuk tells you, you can't do that. So we know why Rasha changes the word. The Pasuk says, Layikach Sheikh, and Rasha adds the word, Lafaisa, you can't appease him, to tell you that the Havamina, even the first thought that you might do something with Sheikhat is only Lafais, and that he doesn't do either. But that's what you might think. So that's when he gave the first word that he says, Lafaisa. Why Rasha adds the word money, that you can't appease him with money. Like the Ram, Rabbi asks, I don't understand money. What does money fit by Hashem? When you think you give him money? And then he adds a second part to the question. Why didn't he say something that makes more sense? He doesn't take sheikh, means you can't do a mitzvah and get rid of the Aveira. You might want to give him sheikh, you did an Aveira, you deserve to be punished. So you know what? You'll do a mitzvah. You'll do another mitzvah, thinking that by doing the mitzvah, he'll overlook the punishment of the Aveira. That's what Rashi could have said. That makes sense. You might think that. But to think that you could give the Eibishter money, what kind of Havamin is that? That's the kasha he asks. And that kasha the Rebbe also asks here. Why does Rashi add, what does Rashi mean with saying b'moment? Another question. We know the rule that Rashi quotes from the Pasuk whenever he makes a comment on anything, only those words from the Pasuk which are important to his Pirish, or it's important to the Kasha, or it's important to Rashi's teretz, but only those words, nothing extra. So in our case, why does Rashi quote from the Pasuk the word V'lei Yikach? He quotes V'lei Yikach Sheichad. Why V'lei Yikach? Sein Pirish do is norben again of what Sheichad. All he's trying to explain what does Sheichad mean. So he says two things here. Adosis Pius. Number one, as we said before, that the sheikhad we're talking about is a sheikhad of pious, thinking that you could have Hashem overlook your punishment. So Rasha says that's what sheikhad here means. And the second thing, and whatever the pshat is, but it means that you might think you could appease him with money. So Rasha should have just quoted from the pasuk sheikhad, and Rasha should have said pius b'mammon, that you might think you could do pius, you could have him overlook the punishment, you could appease him with money. Why does Rashi also bring the words from the pasuk V'lei Yikach? Then the Rebbe says like this: at the kasha amura for Rom, on the previous kasha that the Rebbe Mizrahi asks, he says, "What's momen? What does Rashi mean money? How could you think you could give Hashem money?" You find in the Mefarshim comment to Rutzim. You find in the Mefarshim many answers to that kasha. What Rashi means. One teretz is mit moment of gemeint das bringen a korban zu Eibishter. Rasha said you might think that you could give money, bribery to the Eibishter. Money means bringing a korban. Korban costs money. So when it says moment, Rasha says moment, it means you'll use money to buy a korban, and you'll bring a korban, and you'll appease Hashem by the korban. When the pasuk lost and said them it had, and the pasuk says no, Hashem doesn't do that, because as another pasuk says in Mishlei, zevach rashoim teva means a korban of a rasha is disgusting. That means that the korban itself will not help. As long as he didn't do tshuva, the korban doesn't count. So that's what the pasuk means, and that's what Rashi means when he says that you don't think that you could be mafayis and appease him with money. He means you could appease him with the korban. The pasuk means that the korban is not enough. You'll like to spend money, but it doesn't help. You got to do tshuva also. That's one pshat that Rashi means. The second pshat is the linya from the faisi b'mom main kelosh nakosu free and v'yikrali truma. When it means giving money, it means David giving money. That's kasha that the Ram asked. He says like this. It means the pasuk says by the donations to the Mishkan, it says v'yikhuli truma. You shall take, which means give me truma. Oh, so here we see a way of giving Hashem money. If you give him money for the Mishkan, that's what the pasuk says. Yeder mama was mismagdish lili shmi. Any money that you're magdish, you desecrate, you consecrate, I guess the word is. To be magdish, you put it aside for me, which is L'Tzorchei HaMishkan, for the needs of the Mishkan, of the Bisei Mikdash, K'yetze B'zeh, that's called giving him money. The Pasuk zogt, and that's what the Pasuk is saying. As mit nisinas momen legaveya, by giving money to the Eibishter, which is for the Eibishter's things, you can't take away the punishment of the Aveda you did, only unless you do tshuva, but without tshuva not. And that's what Rashi means. That's another pshat. You can't appease him with money, meaning by giving money for inyonim of the Eibishter. The third pshat, what he means, moment meint jeder mitzvah if verbunden mit this moment. But Rashi says you can't appease him with money means with mitzvahs. Any mitzvah that costs money, you think, oh, I'm going to spend money on a mitzvah. Okay, the Eibishter will take away my punishment. You can't do that. As a tzedakah, let's say you'll give tzedakah. Okay, now, like we said before, that is not pasuk. And as I said before, the pasuk is telling you, the way Rashi learns that that's not enough. You also have to do tshuva, but just giving tzedakah and using money for mitzvahs, that's not going to be enough that the Eibishter should take away the punishment. That's how they learn. So we have three pshatim here. But this only answers the smaller question. As we said before, the Ram asked basically two questions. One, first of all, what do you mean give the Eibishter money? How could you think he'll give the Eibishter money? He'll take away the punishment. How do you give the Eibishter money? The second question, why didn't he make it a better pshat? The better pshat would have been that you might think you could appease Hashem by doing a mitzvah. You have a din Aveda, so you want to get rid of the punishment, you'll do a mitzvah. That would make sense. So the teres that they give is only to answer the first pshat, the first question, the tofel, the secondary question. How would you such a thing? How's it possible to give money to the Eibishter? So we had three answers what it means. But the main question still remains. Since we said the reason why a person might think that you could give money to Hashem and that'll be a sheikhet is nit v'momen by boser v'dom. It's not like sheikhet of a person by a person. When you give a judge money, why do you think that it'll help? But the dayan tatielas from the moment gufa, the judge gains, he gets money. So you might think I'll give him money, and that'll help. It'll take away my punishment, etc. But here it's not like that. According to the pshat is, why do you think that you could appease him with the money? According to all the pshatim, because you're going to do something good with the money, that's why you think. So basically here the point is not the money. The point is the mitzvah that you'll be doing. It'll use for a mitzvah. Gebracht a korban, that you use the money for a korban. Or the other pshatim, or you gave it for the mishkan, or you gave it tzedakah. So if anyway the point of the pasuk is that you might think you bribe Hashem by doing a mitzvah, if I was told Rashi is mitzvah b'momen, so why does Rashi say money? So it's the mitzvah aspect of it. Why would we think that money that makes a mitzvah, that is for the sake of a mitzvah, is more svara that you might think it might appease the Eibishter? It's not the money of it. It's the money that you use for a mitzvah. So it's a mitzvah, so any mitzvah. So we're back to the question that he asked. The second question he asked, why didn't he say, you think you'll do a mitzvah and it'll take away the punishment from the Aveira? Why does Rashi mention money? Certainly according to the pshat, the first pshat that we said, that it means you'll use the money for a korban. A korban is a good smell for Eibishter, good pleasure to Eibishter. Which is the opposite of anger. And we're talking here about Hashem taking away the anger from you. So here, Rashi sicher gedarf sagen klor, lefaise bekorban. So why money? So Rashi should have said, you might think that you'll appease Hashem with a korban. Why does he have to write money? That money that you used to buy a korban. Und nicht meramed sein auf dem mit dem Wort beimam, not to be meramed, didn't mention the word korban here. He says money, and we're saying Rashi means the money used for a korban. So it's the korban. So first of all, any mitzvah you could say. Certainly, if it's talking about the korban, should have said clearly korban. Wait, another question. According to this pshat, the main point is missing in Rashi. This main point here is, according to this pshat, that it means you might think you could appease him with a korban. So the main point is that a korban is not enough, but you have to do tshuva. So Rashi doesn't say a word about it. Doesn't mention here that the korban is not enough, you have to do tshuva. So whole I had no idea that Rashi just says moment. But another thing, if you look in the simple meaning of the words, where is there even a hint the words that it says here, Leyikach Sheichat, means that a korban is not enough and you have to have tshuva. Which is similar, is that it's missing basically in Rashi, but in Chumash itself, all it says is Leyikach Sheichat. How does that tell you that the korban is not enough and you have to do tshuva? All kinds of new things. Another thing that Rabbi says, we can't say Rashi uses the word that you might think that you could appease him with money. Because when we talk sheichat, bribery by a regular person, usually it's money. So when the Pasuk says sheichat, Rashi says moment. You could have answered that. The whole kasha was, why does Rashi answer moment? Because that's the common kind of sheichat that is given between people. So you use the lot lotion. You can't say that. Because like this. Number one, by mentioning even by people, sometimes it's not money. You could sheikh it by words. You say something nice to him to make him feel good, and then you think that because of that he'll overlook your punishment, etc., etc. So it's not always money. But the second thing is the Ekev. That's the main problem. Is Leib the Shailef and Pasuk. So we're saying like this. We understand why Rashi, even if you answer the status, Rashi uses the word moment because that's normal, and that's why Rashi says that the Pasuk. But it said sheichat, that meant money. But the question is on the pasuk itself. The pasuk sheichat was made by moment, and Nita Yisrik was made by mitzvahs. According to what we're saying, all these pshatim is the main thing is the mitzvahs. Elamai, since the pasuk uses the word sheichat, so you could answer Rashi. That's what Rashi picks the word. Meaning means you might think that you use mitzvahs to bribe him with doing mitzvahs. But since the pasuk uses the word bribery, and bribery is usually money, so Rashi uses money. So Rashi, you could explain at least this way somehow. That Rashi follows the word sheichat, and sheichat means money, so Rashi says money. But the pasuk itself, why did the pasuk say sheichat? Why did the pasuk mention sheichat? Pasuk should have said mitzvahs. Why did the pasuk mention a word which has to mean money, and then we have to have all these kashas? The beer the explanation is like this: the kavanah piras Rashi do is meduyik b'sheided. What Rashi means is meduyik exactly in the words that Rashi uses. Every word in Rashi is exact. Rashi says on the first words, "V'layis upon him." He will not show you any grace. Im tifraku eilei, if you will throw off his yoke. But he doesn't say a lotion like it says in B'chukei. Could have said, if you will not keep my mitzvahs, if you will not keep my chukim, all kinds of expressions. Why a strange expression? If throw off his yoke, the Eibishter's yoke, must be that Rashi means something else. When the pasuk says leis upon him, doesn't mean when you're stam doing averis, you're not doing mitzvahs, you're doing averis. Rahman al-Islam. Rashi is telling you that's not what the pasuk is talking about. If you don't do mitzvahs or chas v'shom, you do averis. Nazafal betman b'meibish nuken in bench. Now Yisrael Hashem panalech. In such a case, the Eibishter could be show you grace, show you is upon him. Eibishter could do that. Not only that. We asked the Eibishter for that, and the Kohanim benches that. Ervet keepers like Kaisei. He by Birchas Kenim, when it says Yisrael Hashem Panav Elech Rasha, he will hold back his anger. Yes, and when we're saying anger means that you did something wrong. So we're talking about doing something wrong, and the Eibishter is angry. The Eibishter could overlook that, or nit ma'anish sein, and he will not punish you. That's what the pasuk means over there. Yisrael Hashem Panav Elech, even though he's angry at you. So what is the pshat here? Lo Yisrael Panim, that he will not. So Rashi no doretzaving prikasoil. Here we're talking about somebody who throws off the whole yoke of Hashem. Someone that throws off the whole yoke of Hashem. He's not an eved of Hashem. The word yoke is always by an eved. An eved is a slave, a servant. So if you throw off a yoke, you're not eved Hashem anymore. On the contrary, this is a person who feels free to do whatever he wants. It's like a pasuk. It says, you can have a person say, I will go in the will of my heart, I will do whatever I want. If them zog the pasuk le'yisapon, and a person like that, Rashi says, that's what le'yisaponim is. He will not show any favor to you. The Eibishter fiert sich mit ihm bedigduk, and is nicht bevatet. The Eibishter goes exactly what you're doing, and the Eibishter will not overlook it. Which right away, we have an answer to the stira between the two psukim. Over there, it's like Birchas Kenim, it says the Eibishter will show you grace, will show you favor, even though he's angry at you. Here it says not. Now we have an answer. If you do Avedas, the Eibishter could still overlook it. But if you're not just doing Avedas, you throw off the yoke of Hashem, then the Eibishter says, Leis upon you. That answered the question. And the hechrech of them pirush is from close to Hashem. And what forces Rashi to say that this is the pshat? Not only to answer the stira, but it's also, you look at the whole hemshech, the whole continuation of the parsha, the way it goes, you see how this fits. What does it say? The parsha starts with the words, Va'ato Yisrael ma Hashem alakecha she'eni b'chkim yira. Now, Yisrael, what is Hashem asking you? All he wants is yira, the fear of Hashem. It's Rashi Mafaras. Rashi explains, like I said in the beginning, even though you did all that, he talks about all Avedas. His Rachmanis, his pity, and his love to you is still there. And all that you sinned for him, nevertheless, all he asks him liyira. Now, even if you sinned, the Eibishter will still overlook it. But as long as you have yira, what's yira? Yira is Kabbalah Soil. So right in the beginning of this whole section here, it's clear from this parsha where it says the Rasha that we just quoted, the Eibishter, all he wants is that you should have yira. And Rasha says clearly that the Eibishter, even though you did all the Avedas, he still will love you. Nor Armon Blaze. All he's asking for is liyira, to have fear, which is the union of Kabbalah Soil. On the Rabbi, therefore, when the posik zog behemshech, when it comes in continuation to that, the posik leis upon him, he will not show you in your favor. Muz men zogen, you have to say at the Sretzrev from dem inyan. It's the opposite of this inyan, because to say it's that, it means to say if you do Avedas, he won't be mas upon him. That's not true. He just a Rashi a few psukim before it says that even if you do Avedas, he still loves you. Elamai, he said, but there's a condition, you have to have yira. Oh, so obviously when it says here, leis upon him means when you're not keeping the yira. Eibes is heipich, as kenit zayin liyira. If it's the opposite, and you don't have a yira. The fire is Rashi Mefarish, leis upon him, a tifra ko'elei. Now, that's what Rashi said. What does he mean? When is leis upon him? If you throw off the yoke. If you stam do Avedas, the Eibishter still loves you, and it's possible the Eibishter will forgive you. Not only that we're asking, and for sure he can bench you for that, even if he's angry. But if you throw off the yoke, that means you don't have any Kabbalah Soil at all. You're completely not given over to the Eibishter. Then the Eibishter says leis upon him. He's moving for was Rashi cannot learn of the andere meforshim. That explains why Rashi cannot learn like other meforshim. As v'leikach sheichad meant sheichad mitzvahs. Why you can't learn that when he says you cannot give the Eibishter sheichad, you can't give him bribery, means you can't do a mitzvah, should take away the punishment for Aveira. While Rashi learns them posik, the way Rashi learns this posik, adem meduber is wegen azavas by infeld and liyira. Rashi learns that we're talking about a person that's missing Kabbalah Soil. He threw off the yoke. He doesn't have the yira. Tifra ko'elei. So now you can't explain that he doesn't take sheichad means the Eibishter will not take the sheichad mitzvahs of somebody threw off the yoke. That already we know is not. The posuk already said before, upon him if you're paid a kale. So if you're paid a kale, then leis upon him. The Eibishter doesn't. So how could we think that he might be able to give him sheichad? We just said the Eibishter will not give you to have any favor to you. So therefore, Rashi has to find something else. That there must be something else. That there could be a thought as a kadufton aninya from peace that after we say that you're a peirakil and leis upon him because you're a peirakil. Now he adds and he does not take sheichad. Must be sheichad that you have a habit that money could do it. When the Farsak Rashi moment, that's what Rashi says. You might think that with money you could do it. The Rebbe didn't explain it yet. He's going to explain, but this is the point. The point that Rebbe is making here, that Rashi says anything you can say that if you're a peirakil, we know for sure nothing will help because we said leis upon him. There's one thing that still might think a person you're a peirakil, you threw up the yoke, and you still might think that you might get the Eibishter to overlook the punishment you have, and that is by thinking that you'll give him money. Now, what does that mean? So the Rebbe is going to explain why giving money might be a thought that even if you're a peirakil, this might help that Hashem should overlook the punishment. Why? Why would we think that money could forgive even if you threw off the yoke of Hashem? Darf Rashi nicht durchsteichen. See, whatever Rebbe is going to say, you always ask, oh, so Rebbe has a pshat. Again, where does it say Rashi? Like he asked on the other pshatim, he asked, how could they say that he meant korban and this? It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it. But what the Rebbe is going to say, Rashi doesn't have to say it because it's all understood from what Rashi said already before. And that we know the cloud, that Rashi relies, not have to say, if something that he said already before, and a person with Seichel will understand it himself, Rashi doesn't have to repeat himself. And like I said, Rashi assumes that everyone remembers what he learned and uses the brain to connect it to wherever it fits. If you only have a straight head, that's what Rashi, the Rebbe says a lot of times, is yosher, straight. If your mind is straight and you have a good zikod and you remember, you'll figure it out yourself. Rashi doesn't say it. If something that you can't figure yourself on Rashi, you want to say Rashi meant it, then when he should have said it. The Rebbe always says that Rashi is written even for a ben chomish l'mikra, for a child. A child that remembers what he learned as a straight head that doesn't know much besides what he learned in Rashi. We learned in the psukim before. So all those other meforshim have new things. That you want. Why would you think so? Why would you think this? Rashi would have to say, but what the Rebbe is going to say, since Rashi said something before, and if you remember it, you'll be able to fill it here, then Rashi doesn't have to say it, and it's hinted in the words. What did we learn before? It says if someone killed somebody, he says, if you makes it, you have to get killed, but if you shege unintentionally, you go to golus, you cannot take kefir, you cannot take redemption money for it. So you cannot take away his punishment with money. If an ox belonging to a person killed a person, it says the person who is the boss of the one that killed, of the ox that killed, he has to give redemption. So here again we see that something that has to do with his life, money could redeem it. Was the fun is moving for that to understand that by giving bribery money, it has a double contents and a double effect. Number one, first of all, if you give someone money as bribery, the person who took it is meshuchet, meaning, why is he meshuchet? His mind doesn't work straight. He always thinks to benefit the one that gave it to him, from the moment, since he got the money and he's gaining from it, so automatically his mind works. That's number one. But besides that, din der moment echatz kefer, money is used as a redemption. It should redeem and be an exchange for the person who's giving the money. Like in a case where the person really should die. So the Pasuk says, don't think you can give money. Why would I think you can give money to save yourself? Because money will be an exchange for a person's being, for not dying, etc. In order they shouldn't take away your life, you could give money. So you would think that you could give money to protect your life. If you killed somebody, you could give money. Besides, Rashi brings a day and it's a kefer from Sheish Haragonim. Rashi, so much so, brings an opinion when it says that if an ox killed a person and the owner of the ox has to give kefer, has to give money, so there is an opinion, how much money does he have to give? So one opinion, he gives the money of the value of the person he killed. Okay, that makes sense. You killed a person has a value in halacha, so you give that money. But another opinion is that the opinion nafshemin got to be mazik. You have to give the value of the person, the owner of the ox. Why would you have to give him owner of the ox? Because the owner of the ox really deserves to die to a certain degree. And by giving money, it takes the place of your life. Und der Tam der Reif is moving. Now we even understand it al pesechel. It's midah keneged midah. It's measure for measure. Like it says, Badover Ashazod Aleim. The inyan of midah keneged midah is not written, is not pshutish l'mikra. But it says in Posik that by the Mitzrayim, Yisrael said, and I know that they drowned in the Yamsuf, the Eibishter did it for what they did. They did drown the Yiddish kinder. The Eibishter drowned them. So we see the Eibishter works even up Pshat, midah keneged midah. Where the Alter Rebbe is Mavaiber Protis and Tanya became mitzvah tzedakah, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya concerning tzedakah, as we val durch dem moment of yochel liegt ins chayin afshei. Why does tzedakah save you from death? Tzedakah tatzal mamovis saves you from death because it's giving up your life. Because the money that you have, you could have bought life. You need money to buy food to be alive. So every penny that you give, it could have been used to buy food to give your life. So by giving money, you're giving your life. Weil der wie Rashi bringt mit etliche Psukim weiter. Rashi says a few Psukim in the parsha later. By Yikum Asher Ragleim, it says in the Gekerach, and they got swallowed in the ground, and they, the family, and Kol Yikum Asher Ragleim, all the things that make them stand on their feet. What does that mean? So Rashi says that goes on the money of a person that stands him on his feet. So all he's trying to show here is that money takes the place of a person's life. It is instead of the person. And das is the Pasuk Shel, and that's what the Pasuk tries to tell you. But the question was, what could you think after the person is a Peir Akel, we said. And B'meila leyis upon him, Hashem doesn't show any grace to him, doesn't show any favor to him. And nevertheless, he says, you might still think that you could give Sheikhat. That means the reason why everything doesn't work is because he's a Peir Akel. It's not, if you do Stam Avedas, they wish they could forgive. But if you're a Peir Akel, nothing will work. And still one thing will work. So it must be something that is the opposite of Peir Akel. In other words, you yourself didn't give yourself over to Eibusha. You might think, I'll give something instead of myself. And what's instead of a person's self is a person's money. And that's what the Pasuk is trying to negate. By the Meibish and the Chaychas the Faisi moment. You can't appease the Eibusha with money. Avodah, when you say you can't appease the Eibusha with money, it doesn't mean das nicht zu bewahren, man kann dem Eibusha nicht unterkäfen, it doesn't mean that you can't buy Hashem for money. Like other people, a person you could unterkäfen, I don't know how to say it in English, unterkäfen, you could buy him for the money, give him money and you buy him. Eibusha, you can't do that. That's not what we're trying to tell you. We're talking about what the money will do for the person who's giving it. A person who's giving the money could think, as Chosher is a Perikales, even though you threw off the yoke of Hashem, on his niti, but he is not given over to Eibishter. So instead of giving myself, I can give something that's just in the place of me. What's the place of a person? His money. And the Eibishter will take it as redeeming of his nefesh, of himself. So the only thing you could think of that a person might think that he could, even if it's a Perikales, nothing else will work, giving money will work, because money is the place of the person. So the Pasuk says, no, he doesn't take the bribery. The Rebbe he will not take this redemption. Something else. If you're a Perikales, the only thing that will work, give yourself back over to the Rebbe. The only thing the Rebbe will take is you. If you give yourself over, then it's good. Then if you give money, it's a great thing. But as long as you're still a Perikales, you still didn't give yourself over, is will not take sheikhat. And the only possibility which we thought maybe is moment. And that's why Rashi says moment. The whole kasha was, why does Rashi mention moment? Why does Rashi not say mitzvah? Because for sure mitzvah won't work because you're a Perikales, according to Rashi. But the only thing you might think is moment. So Rashi said that's why the only sheikh we can think is moment. And it's not because the natural, normal way of sheikh is money. All these words, it's a new pshat completely. Dem is ich move in the time, but the Pasuk is madgish, and Rashi is mighty la'ika. This will also explain what the Pasuk stresses. And Rashi also quotes from the Pasuk the words la'ika. That was the kasha we asked. Rashi should have said moment, the word the sheikh and say moment, faisim a moment. Why does he quit la'ikach? So he says why, based on what we said before. Since the concept of money, giving money is like giving yourself, giving your life, like Kabbalah sale, which is equivalent, so to speak, mitzad the giver, not mitzad the taker, mitzad the giver. No, the chesron is, was eigentlich a Perikales kann in the since moment nicht verweiten. But because you're a Perikales, you can't exchange it for money. We said it's the only thing. See, the sinus moment is something that is as if giving yourself, but the pale it's not. The pale the Eibusha says you have to give up yourself, not your money. The father is not ad goshem apostle. Nit al shel in am shelos in the sinus hamoment. It's not to come tell you that the money is no good. Nor in them nit ongenommen werden als pies v'sheichat. The main thing is it can be accepted. Giving money is fine. You should give money. But it's not accepted by the Eibishter. Giving money, you are giving something of yourself. But the Eibishter says, I will not accept it. You have to give more than that. You have to give yourself, not the money which is in place of yourself. So it's not that it's a chesorn in the money, it's a chesorn in the Eibishter will not accept it. The Pasuk is madgish v'lo yikach sheikh. That's the Eibishter will not take it. It's not that the money, it's not the chesorn in the money, but the Eibishter just says, I will not take the money for that reason. You have to give yourself, not the money. Yeah, the Rebbe says everything befrat and yonif and Torah mitzvah, certain things of Torah mitzvah is bashgocha protis, is divine providence. Zetman, so we see the Inyan, as the Rebbe said, leisa upon of likach shechet, see that this Inyan, that Hashem doesn't show grace and He will not take shechet. Steht in Eichen Sof von dem vierten Perik from Sicht Ovis. It's also written in the end of the fourth Perik chapter of Pirkei Ovis. There, it's one of the things it says there is she'ein lefonov, that in front of the Eibush, lei maso poni v'lei makach shechet. But the Eibush is no such thing as showing, just plain showing grace, showing favoritism, and He doesn't take shechet. But like the Seder for the Yesh Negim to learn Pirkei Avos called Shabbos Sakais, according to those that have the meaning, because the Alter Rebbe says some have the meaning to learn Pirkei Avos all Shabbosim of the summer, and Lepel, we have that meaning. The Rebbe instituted that meaning. So many years it comes out, the fourth Perek, where these words are written, is in Parshas Ekev, this Shabbos. And here we see as Dafke like Pirish Rashi b'Pshuta Shel Mikra, the way we Pshat of Rashi, the way the Rebbe learned Pshat in Rashi in Pshuta Shel Mikra, that Musbar Maturis Shayla will answer the simple, very simple question. Was tutu the Mishnah from Posek HaMefurish b'Torah? What does the Mishnah add? And something that's clear in the Torah. The Mishnah says that the Eibishter doesn't have Masa upon him and doesn't take Shechet. Some Ferish of Posek. So the Mishnah has to tell us that. So what's that? It must be the Mishnah is trying to tell us something else. Based on what the Rebbe learned Pshat in Rashi, on this Posek, we'll see that that's not what the Mishnah means, and the Mishnah means something else. The Chiluk is moving up here now. Based on what they said before, we'll then see the difference between the Posek and what the Mishnah means. In Torah, state the Posek in the meaning of Matzavati Yisrael Hashem Lakach Hashem Yimah. In Torah, this Posek is written in continuation after he says that all Hashem wants of you is liyira. All other Avedas, He will still love you, as long as you have yira. But dosi machrich zalemi kanal, which forced us, as we learned before, to say that when he says he doesn't take sheichat, goes behemshich to somebody who doesn't have Kabbalah sale. That's what, and we're forced to say that, because if you have Kabbalah sale, you just don't do mitzvahs, you do Avedas, the Eibishter still forgives you. They could forgive you, and we ask Him to again, He does forgive. So we said before that since the Posek in the Torah is behemshich to this previous Posek, Hashem is only asking liyira, that's why we say that not to take sheichat means, so we explained it before, that since you don't have Kabbalah sale, you might think you give money, etc., etc. And the Faras Rashi, his Perush is like Pshuta Shel Mikra, therefore Rashi, which he explains according to the simple pshat of the Posek and the continuation of the Psuki. He's Mefarish v'Liyisa Ponim and Tifrakailei. That what does Liyisa Ponim means? That if you throw off the yoke, we're talking here not about the person that's Averis, throw off the yoke. And Layikach Sheichat means the Faiz B'Mam, that you don't think you can give Sheichat and appease him with money, which you might think that'll be even if you don't have the oil. So the Posek says not. That's the way the Posek is written, and that's the way we said Rashi is forced to say, because he learns Pshuta Shel Mikra. Schenken in the Mishnais from Pirkei Avos, but in Pirkei Avos is different. Pirkei Avos anhalt mil dich zu tun. The Gemara says in Baba Kama that in Pirkei Avos, these are things of Chassid. The Gemara says if you want to be a Chassid, learn Pirkei Avos, follow Pirkei Avos, which means the union of a Chassid means Lifnim V'Shuras Adin. We're not talking about a person who's bad and doing bad things. That's not what Pirkei Avos is talking about. So Pirkei Avos is talking to a person who's fine, and it's telling him extra. So we have to say that what it says in Pirkei Avos, that the Eibishter is not masaponim, is not showing favoritism, and he doesn't take sheichat. He must be telling us something else. But it's Hashemer Torah mitzvahs. Pirkei Avos is talking to someone already to keep Torah mitzvahs, and it's telling to somebody, and for them, Pirkei Avos says there's something more you got to do. You're doing Torah mitzvahs fine, but you got to do something extra. So what does the Pirkei Avos mean? Not the way we said before, that you're talking about Peira Kail, someone doesn't have the yoke, etc., etc. That's the Posek, and the Posek must be that, because that's the Pshuta Shel Mikra. But the Pirkei Avos means something else. That what does it mean he doesn't take sheichat? With the Rambam sagt in Pirush HaMishnayis, like the Rambam says in his commentary on the Mishnayis. The Rambam says that Layikach sheichat means he won't take bribery. Ha'tevis, he won't take good things, which like mitzvahs, as bribery. And he said, what does it mean? Like imagine a person does 1,000 good things, but one bad thing. So so we don't say that the Eibishter will forgive him for that Aveira because he does so many mitzvahs. He did the Aveira. So okay, the Eibishter won't punish him the Avera. But since he did do Avera, and he did 1,000 mitzvahs, the Eibishter would deduct one mitzvah. So instead of 1,000, he'll have 999. We'll give him 998. But he won't be punished for the Avera. So you might think that's the briber. You might think, I'll do a mitzvah, and since I did Averas, I'll do an Avera, and since I did mitzvahs, the mitzvahs will cover up an Avera. Will be deducted a little bit from the mitzvahs. Aval Ye'onah says that's what the Mishnah says. No, it's not true. Ye'onah shall say saro achas. The Eibishter will punish you for this Avera, for this bad thing you did. And he'll give you a reward for all 1,000 mitzvahs. Don't mix the two. The Rambam says that's what leikach shechad means. The Eibishter will not take shechad. But who can make layis upon him? Just like I say, the Eibishter doesn't show grace. That means shiana shagodol b'mailas al dover mut. The Eibishter will punish to be somebody who's great, has all kinds of milas, but because of a small bad thing you did, he will punish you for it. But Moshe Rabbeinu was punished for what he did. He had millions of mitzvahs. The Eibishter rewarded Esav for doing the mitzvah of Kibbud Av, even though he had many Averas. The Eibishter rewarded Nebuchadnezzar for giving cover to the Eibishter. That's what it means in the Pirkei Azulei. The Eibishter doesn't have meant upon him. The Hayes, it means like this. The Rambam is telling you, the cheshbon for mitzvahs and averes says not in a eifim for mischa v'chilufim for mitzvahs and averes. It's not like make a deal and you're exchanging mitzvahs for averes. When es wird herabgerechnet das Schar von ein Mitzvah und der Mitzvah wird vergeben der nicht von einer Avere. That all you do is take off the reward of one mitzvah, of the many mitzvahs you do, take away one, and the mele you don't get a punishment for Avere. It's not so. So jeder mitzvah und jeder Avere hat man besonders Schar weinisch für sich. Every mitzvah and Avere has its own reward and its own punishment. Time of them, and the reason could be said, why is it like that? The gather for mitzvah and Avere besteht nicht bloß in seiner Wirkung benuftu beneged aber dem bekayim. The concept of mitzvah and Avere is not only what effect it has on the person. If you say it's an effect on the person, so it's one deal. You have one person, there's good things that happen, bad things. So you could say, well, you have a lot of good things and a little bit of bad things. So the bad things are taken away because you have good things, because we're looking at the person as one unit. But the gather mitzvah is, the concept of a mitzvah is like this. Kiyum rotzim elyon, doing what the Eibishter wants as an union for itself. And the gather from Avera is ever of rotzim elyon. The concept of Avera is that you're transgressing the rotzim, the will of Hashem. The mail is yeder mitzvah and inyan latzmei. So every mitzvah is something for itself. The same thing in Avera. Every Avera is an inyan for itself. But in them guf is ein Franz binyonim. But we do have two inyonim. We have a lei masaponim, a lei mekach shechet. So we have the Eibishter in this inyan. When we apply this concept that he doesn't exchange a mitzvah for an Avera, has two protim, two details in it. Masaponim, that the Eibishter doesn't do that, and he doesn't take shechet. Meaning, the simple difference between these two expressions is Masaponim mean the vitor was kumpets ad maila soda. Masaponim usually means you don't show favoritism. You would show a certain person favoritism. So that tells you that no matter who you are, you could have the great mile of the person, the Eibishter will not show you favoritism. And they will not exchange the mitzvah for an Avera. Makach sheichat kum besad chshibus from the dover and the makach she means taking means depends what you give. That you could say, well, I give a big. Imagine if I do a lot of mitzvahs, maybe that will exchange for Avera. So that's what sheichat, giving sheichat means giving something. So the two expressions, one means that the greatness of the person will not change, that because you're so great, the Eibishter will forgive you. And also if the things that you're giving is the great thing you're giving, the Eibishter will not forgive you. That not change. The same way is what effect it has on the judge. These two things, meaning mas upon him tutuv, if there would be mas upon him, like by a judge, there is such a thing, but not by the Eibishter, by the judge. Tutuv, what does mas upon him mean? That he shows favoritism, shows grace. As the mentions ma'ila vet nit geminnen to looking at the person like this, a person did a novel, did something wrong, so his greatness is minimized. If you give sheicha, if you do something in the eyes of the judge, he doesn't look you as a sinner. And the word chet means a sin, but chet also means missing. He doesn't look at you're missing. It's not true. That's not what happens. The Eibishter does look. He gives you the schar for the mitzvah, but he knows that you're missing something when you do the Avera. But if he would, the have meaning that you might think it does take mass upon him. So one thing is that you would think that the Eibishter doesn't look at you as the person that you're missing something. Because you did mitzvah, so he doesn't look at Avera as being some lack. And sheichat tutuf, As I meise built it out, wird ausgekauft und abgemerkt. And what does giving sheikhad means? Like we said before, mas upon him is on the person, but the person is not minimized in the eyes of the judge. And giving sheikhad means that what you did should be taken away. So when you say that you might think you could give sheikhad, means that the maise, the bad act that you did, the built also should be uizgekef, should be bought and upgemerkt and erased, bought by the mitzvah. So we say the Eibusher doesn't do it. And that's what the Mishnah tells us. The Mensch is verbunden mit dem Eibusher wird nicht ausgeglichen durch eine Mitzvah neben der Weire. The connection of a Yid to the Eibusher does not get evened out for a mitzvah against an Aveire. And the Aveire wird nicht abgemerkt durch a mitzvah. The Aveire would not be raised for a mitzvah. And in both ways, sign masaponim, not in the eyes of what the level of the person is, and not because the Aveire itself. That's what the pasuk says. But there's two things. But akaponim so far, so it comes out that this is a different thing with the Rashis, with the pasuk. The pasuk according to Rashi is talking about a different thing, that you can't wipe out prikasel through giving money, and the masaponim is a different thing. It's that if you're perikel and nothing will help. Now he says not even the giving money, and the Mishnah is talking about something else. He's talking about the exchange of mitzvah and aveira, and in both ways masaponim and sheichat, that the Eibusher doesn't do that, etc., etc. Then the Rebbe adds that mitvet neich verstehen, but the Medrash sagt that tshuva is an infant sheichat. This will explain why the Medrash uses the word bribery and tshuva. Because the Medrash lashon is at the natal sheichat and rashoyim bil mazeh. That we're saying to the Eibusher, yeah, you take bribery from the rashoyim in this world. What's the bribery you take? Tshuva ma'asim tevim mit tefillah. You do tshuva, you do good deeds, you daven, Messiah, and the Medrash ends off. Asut tefillah with tshuva, do tefillah and do tshuva, and that'll be the bribery, and the Eibusher will take it. Why does he call tshuva bribery? So he says, "Val der uftuf and tshuva is be'einarech for mitzvahs. Tshuva is much higher, be'einarech, no comparison to mitzvahs. Like we learned that I've seen this many times. There's no comparison to mitzvahs. Tshuva is much higher than mitzvah. The best proof is that tshuva erases anything that was wrong in the fulfillment of mitzvahs. You missed a mitzvah, you did an aveda, you were aver on a lasis, tshuva forgives. So tshuva is higher than mitzvahs. But needing the dan, and in our case, nicht nur in dem was mis mevater. In our case, tshuva not only that the Eibusher forgoes, overlooks. Besides that, their odem is geworden about tshuva, and not only the Eibusher is mevater, and the person became about tshuva, nor was he macht eich iber the maise bilte tev. We said before that if you do take sheikhad, it has two accomplishments. The Eibusher doesn't do it, but when you take two, it does two things. Like the person. If you take sheikhad and the masaponim part of it, the person still stays in the same level that he was before, doesn't minimize his level, and the ma'aseh that you did is not there anymore because the mitzvahs overgave it. Elamai the Eibusher doesn't take it, but by tshuva the Eibusher does. So that's what he says. Tshuva is the real sheikhad. We said before that mitzvahs, trying to exchange mitzvahs for averes is sheikhad, and the Eibusher doesn't do that. That's what the Rambam said in the Mishnah. How does the Eibusher that could take tshuva? Because tshuva is not in exchange for mitzvah and aveda. Tshuva take the Eibusher does because it does change the person. It changes the person. First of all, the Eibusher is mevater for because it's higher than mitzvah. Mitzvahs cannot cause it. Can't say because I did the mitzvahs and my aveda goes away. But if you do tshuva, yes, it does take it away. It's mevater. It foregoes. Eibusher overlooks. The rodem is given about tshuva, and two things there. The person became about tshuva, so it affects the level of the person. Not like a mitzvah will not do that the level of the person stays great. It doesn't. Nor was he macht echiber the maise built it. By tshuva, it changes the maise, which by mitzvah say my mitzvahs will not change the maise avera. But tshuva is the real sheichat. The sheichat which the Eibusher accepts, and it changes even the maise built it a maise that's not good. Where do we see that? Ze macht this danish shgoges. It makes the averas that you did it as if you did a b'shegek. As it says in the Gemara, human, the order that Rebbe brings, tshuva meir, if you do tshuva out of fear. Noch mer, denis kezochias. More, if you do tshuva mi'ave, out of love, then the mitzvahs that the avedas you did, the mezid, turn into like mitzvahs. Noch mer, then there's a higher levels, denis kezochias mamish. Now that they turn in, the avedas b'mezid turn into like mitzvahs, but they become mamish mitzvahs. And then the order that Rebbe says, so there are three levels here, which the Rebbe obviously doesn't go into the three levels. He says Baruch Bevir Dar Geselu to go into what the three levels are. Look at the Sichas Chelik Zayin, Omid one day in the three Be'elech, and then he brings all this sources and everything else. But Tshuva is Takei. a sheikhad. It's called sheikhad because it accomplishes what sheikhad accomplished. But the Eibishter says mitzvahs will not do that. But something higher than mitzvahs will do the two things that sheikhad does. But this is a good sheikhad that the Eibishter accepts.